how do you actually make money as a creator? So today I'm going to give you something that I wish that I heard when I started.
I'm Sammi Cohen, and this is Social Currency, a podcast that unpacks the stories that are shaping business, culture, and the intersection of the two.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Social Currency. So I just left my job at Amazon 3 weeks ago now, and I am officially building Social Currency and my social media channels full time. I've been doing social content for the past 3 years, but I really started taking it very seriously last summer, and it feels like I have learned so much about the creator economy and this whole entrepreneurial journey since I've really started taking it very seriously. And my mission, of course, with this page and my platform is to decode the stories and the economics behind business, tech, and culture. This is a behind the scenes look at how creators actually monetize. We'll cover the classic brand partnership route, the sell directly to your audience model, and a whole grab bag of revenue streams that most people overlook. I'll share my experience where I can and the lessons that I've learned along the way. Some have been easier to learn than others, and the dreams that I have for Social Currency. And by the end, my hope is that you have a much better idea of the levers that you can pull as a creator, whether or not you want to become a creator yourself, or maybe you're just curious about the creator economy in some way, and this will provide a little bit more color for you. And now for some numbers. According to a 2023 survey from Morning Consult, 57% of Gen Zers want to become influencers, and 1 in 5 social media users actually considers themselves to be a content creator or influencer. So let that sink in. Now, at this point, I feel like most people know these numbers or have heard of them at some point, and this industry and role is taking over faster than pretty much any other job type in the world. And this trend is only growing with every single passing year. But before we get into the models, I also want to address something that I hear from time to time. I've heard people say that content creation and the content creation world is saturated. But let me just tell you, I think that is absolute BS. There is always room for someone new as long as you come with a different point of view and can stand out in some way. And I feel really strongly about this. And my rationale is that the content creation world moves so quickly, literally day to day. There's always a new trend. There's always a new creator who comes out with a viral video. Like, it doesn't even change day to day, honestly. It changes hour to hour. And I think if you are someone who can come in and really capitalize on something new or really bring in a new level of expertise or knowledge or just being yourself authentically in a way that stands out, there will always be room for you. So I wanted to just start there because I think that there are a lot of people who, even if you don't want to do content creation full time, it's really a great avenue to explore, even as a side hustle, the creator economy. There's so much money in this space. And as someone who went and just did that jump full time, I really believe that there is space for so many more people than there are today. And it will probably get to a point where in future generations, kind of everyone is a content creator to some degree, and they're all monetizing it in different ways. So without further ado, let's start with the most obvious one, which is brand partnerships. This is the OG, the classic model. And truth is, the brand partnerships are really the starting gate for a lot of creators. And this is where a brand reaches out to a creator to see if they can promote their product or service. This video will either live on the creator's page or on the brand's page. And here's how the math usually works. Brands look at reach, your follower or subscriber count. They weigh engagement, which is usually the likes, comments, or general percentage of engaged followers. There are a few other metrics that they look at, but those are the general high-level ones. And over the past few years, the engagement factor is actually way more important than the follower count. So if you have a smaller following, but an incredibly engaged audience, you can generate way higher rates for paid brand sponsorships than someone who has a much larger following, but less engagement. And brands care deeply about your niche. The brands that want to partner with you will generally want to make sure that you're operating in a similar niche to them, or that your audience will obviously care about the products that the brand creates. And in terms of actual deliverables, these can be one-off posts for smaller creators, but I believe that the industry seems to be shifting to longer-term partnerships, which is really a best case and a win-win for both sides. And this is where the creator would do several touch points. So this is multiple videos instead of just one-offs, or create pieces of content to promote the brand in more ways than just a one-off video. And nowadays, creators really need to be posting across all of their platforms, or at least the main ones. That's TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And quick story on my first ever brand check. I did a partnership with a company that helped you to create an LLC online. And this is back in 2023 when I was just getting started. And I think I had, I don't know, maybe 20,000 followers on TikTok and non-existent on Instagram. And they asked me for my rates, and I'm over here Googling, trying to figure out what I should price myself at. And I had no idea what to say. And I threw out a number that I thought was very high at the time. I said $1,000 for a video, and they accepted it on the spot. And I realized that I probably should have gone a bit higher because they accepted it so quickly. And that was my first ever branded partnership. And I was admittedly really not great at editing my own videos yet. And I spent so much time editing that video and working on revisions for them that one video probably took me a total of 10 hours. And of course, flash forward to today, the average partnership package for Social Currency lands higher than the 1K per video, of course, but it really does range based on the scope. And I want to walk you through some of the things that I think about when a brand reaches out to me and they say, "Hey, Sammi, we'd love to partner with you to promote our products." These are some of the things that I think about when I'm creating my pricing strategy for them. I'm coming up with the pricing for a specific brand, and it really does vary by brand. So first one is the number of videos. I prefer longer term deals, which I just spoke about. And this means working on at least 2 videos for a brand rather than just the one-offs. And then the creative control. So the more notes that I have to take, the higher the fee. I also think that this is really an important one because I have a very specific style. I have a very specific point of view when I'm talking about a brand, a product, a service. And if a brand pretty much wants to give me a script of things to say, I think it's not going to come off, well, it definitely won't come off as organic. And I take that very seriously because I want to make sure that I'm maintaining my authenticity on the page, that when people see a video from me, they can tell that Sammi Cohen wrote it and it's not coming from a brand. The exclusivity window is another massive one. And let me just tell you, I have been so burned by this. If a brand wants to avoid competitors for a set period of time, that's a premium. And I'll tell you a story. I'll leave out some specific brand names, but one of my biggest brand deals to date came to me and they said, "Sammi, we would love to do this partnership deal with you." It was multiple videos. I was so excited. It was a number that I felt really good about in terms of what they were going to pay me. And there was a massive exclusivity. It was 6 months and it was every single company in the space. And it was a tech company. So a lot of tech companies were on that list. And lo and behold, 2 weeks after I signed that initial contract that had the exclusivity, one of the main competitors reached out to me, and it was a higher deal than the one that I had just signed. And because I had already signed the contract with the exclusivity, I couldn't do that new deal. Now, obviously, there are some non-negotiables for brands, and oftentimes exclusivity, at least for their main competitors, is one of them, at least for a set period of time. So to be fair, I don't think that there's a world in which even if I had negotiated that exclusivity, that I would have been able to get out of it or, change who that main competitor list was. But it's now something that I take very seriously, and I work with my lawyer on to fine tune that exclusivity list to make it as flexible for me. So that way I'm not missing out on massive revenue opportunities. And then there's usage rights. If the brand wants to run my face on their paid ads, that's another line item, because really that means that I'm now literally the face of a brand, and you're using my face, my likeness, my voice to speak on behalf of your brand, and you're shooting out to potentially millions of people. So that's another thing I take very seriously. So if you're a creator and you're not adding in some additional fee for those usage rights, if they're going to whitelist your page or whitelist rather your video, then you want to make sure that you're charging for that. And one thing that I also take very seriously is how my audience will feel when they see an ad on my page coming from this company. I take the trust from my audience so seriously, and this includes you if you're listening to the podcast. And I need the brands that I work with to make sense to me and to my audience. And obviously, as creators expand their media channels from social media like TikTok and Instagram to going into podcasts like myself, the podcast sponsorship side works out in a similar way where brands will sponsor an ad spot and they pay a set rate per 1,000 downloads. And I think of podcasts the exact same way as I do on my social channels. The brands that I take on need to make sense for my audience. If I'm out there one day shilling a tire company, you will know that something has gone terribly awry in my life. No offense to anyone in the auto industry. I mean, who knows if there's a cool angle on it and I could talk about the tech or the business behind it, never say never. Nothing's fully off limits, but you know what I mean. And just to be totally transparent with you guys, as of today, brand deals still cover most of my business revenue, but they're only chapter one of this story because I want to talk about all of the different other angles that creators can explore when they're looking to monetize. So next, let's talk about owning your storefront. In creator speak, that means selling products or experiences straight to the people who already trust you. And this matters because it's the most dependable type of revenue. You're not relying on advertisers outside of yourself or these social media platforms that have constantly changing algorithms. You can actually skip the middleman and you get to keep the data. And if you do this right, you can have way more consistent revenue coming in. And this is why you'll see so many creators launch an online course or an ebook. And this can be a super lucrative channel for so many creators. And I've certainly bought plenty of ebooks or playbooks from some of my favorite creators, and they've been really worth it. But many of these tools are ways for an audience to save time or gain knowledge. And some of these online courses can have a negative reputation in cases because there are plenty of people online who have made versions of these playbooks or ebooks that are kind of scammy and not worth the money. So you have to be careful. If you're creating some kind of product for your audience, whether it's physical or virtual, aka it lives online, you have to make sure that it's adding value because that could easily be a trust killer if you're just putting something out and it's very clear that you're just kind of doing it for the cash grab. This is something that you have to be super careful, and ideally you create this type of product for your audience and they actually end up becoming bigger fans of you instead of feeling like, I just spent money and paid this creator, but I don't feel like I really got the value back. Now, there are also services. So I'm sure people have heard of Cameo and Intro. These services give notable people the opportunity to connect with their fans or followers. And of course, they charge for their time. And then I want to talk about the merch angle because, of course, merch is huge. Many creators who have built out their own companies or podcasts will have some kind of merch line to go along with it. And this is an obvious one. But my first foray into the merch category was my New York Tech Week sweatshirt that I designed with Andreessen Horowitz, which I was so excited about. And I'm also in the process of ordering my own social currency baseball caps, so stay tuned for those. I'm actually really excited about those. I think they look really cool. And then a less common avenue for creators, but quite popular for the mega creators, are the in-person events. And just as one example, Lewis Howes has his Summit of Greatness, which is a multi-day event, and there are thousands of people from all over the world who attend. I actually went to one last year that was in LA, and it was pretty incredible, I'm not gonna lie. Some of these in-person events can cost over $1,000 for a ticket. So once again, these are great options for the mega influencers, maybe not the best idea if you're just starting out. And next up, I wanna talk about some other revenue streams that you shouldn't ignore either. So I'm gonna start with the platform payouts. And these are payouts from some of the social media platforms themselves that pay creators directly to incentivize them to create content on their platform and reward them for the content that does well. So if you think about it, the social media platforms need creators to keep putting out content to, of course, keep people watching and listening. And all of the platforms are not created equal in this regard. There's YouTube AdSense, the TikTok creativity program, and Facebook monetization. And those are just some of the strongest ones that I'm aware of. There are very likely much more than that, but those are the ones that I'm currently involved in. And now, in order to make real money using the platform monetization pipeline, you generally have to be putting out content that performs quite well to the tune of millions of views. Now, there's also affiliate marketing. So this is where a creator will post about a product or a company, and then they get a cut of the revenue from whoever essentially they recruit to purchase the product. And this is actually really common. You see this all the time with people in the lifestyle shopping space where they have their Amazon affiliate link in their bio, and they're making money when you actually purchase something from their link. And yet another strategy, and this is not the most common option, but I wanted to mention this regardless. And this really only works with very early stage companies, but there are also equity deals. So I've heard of startups teaming up with specific creators to offer a small advisory stake in exchange for content and strategy. And I've personally had a few brands offer this to me, and I've decided to not move ahead with these deals for various reasons, but this is a really interesting compensation angle. And I put this into the same category as angel investing, where it's very high stakes, but very high reward. And honestly, it's pretty unlikely that you'll make any money from it, but it's still cool, especially if you like the idea of participating in an early stage venture. Now, those are some of the biggest areas that I'm aware of, and I have to say this as a disclaimer. Please know that this is not a complete exhaustive list of every way to monetize as a creator. It's just a high-level list. So now let's zoom out. Here's a reality check of what the creator back end looks like. Cash flow is lumpy, and one month you could have a blockbuster partnership, and that makes up a quarter of your revenue, and then the next month could be very light. And I'll just speak from my personal experience. I found this to definitely be the case. Earlier this year, I signed my biggest deal to date, and I think that deal came in April. And then in May was such a light month. I think I had literally like a tenth of the deal that I had just signed come in, and you just have to be really okay with it. It's just like anything in freelance. You know that opportunities are going to come in certain seasons, and then others might be a little bit light. I think for me, the regulation of understanding that the creator ecosystem and freelancing is a lot lumpier is definitely a mental shift that I had to make, especially coming from Amazon, working in corporate where you have your steady paycheck coming in every month. And then on the creator front, there's also the admin. So most creators are one-person businesses, or they're supported by several freelancers. And a significant part of a creator's workflow usually includes speaking with brands about these deals and negotiating, and of course, running the back end of their business. And the mental load can be heavy because every piece of content is an asset, but it also kind of is a performance review as you put something out into the world, and then it's kind of voted on, if you want to call it that, by thousands of people in real time by their likes, their comments, and their shares. And I've loved making this leap into the founder and creator universe. I love fostering this direct line straight to my community, and the ability to chase ideas without needing a VP sign off has been really fulfilling. And I truly believe in my vision to create this platform for educating people in an entertaining way. Most importantly, doing this has given me the most job satisfaction that I've ever had. And I'm still deciding what I want social currency to look like over the next 5 or 10 years from now, but these are some things that I'm thinking about. I could see myself launching a social currency membership hub with monthly deep dive workshops, or potentially an annual event that brings my audience together. I just feel like whenever I meet you guys in real life, it's so much fun. And when I tell you, this is me being completely earnest, every single person that has come up to me in real life because they see me out in the wild and they want to say hi, I've genuinely enjoyed speaking to. I feel like when people come up to me, I'm like, you could really be my friend and we could really have a genuine conversation and chat about things. So I love this idea of in person, but I really have to see what that looks like and when I would do that. And then another idea that I have is to perhaps build a small creator first fund to invest in early stage brands. For me, so much of what I talk about is early stage companies or investing in venture capital. And I feel like this would be really fun for me. And I could see this happening within the next 5 years. And yes, I'd love to see my podcast, of course, blow up, and thank you for listening, and just be a lot bigger, because I have so much fun speaking with these business minds and having these conversations that are done in a different lens than your traditional business podcast. So of course, I want to see Social Currency, the podcast, keep growing into something as big as it can possibly get. And I am manifesting this into this mic as we speak. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this business side of the creator space episode, and let me know if you have any other questions for me about this topic. This is one of my favorites to dive into because I am living it out loud right now. And I'd love to share more about this in future episodes too, and how my revenue is changing, especially as my platform is growing, and to see if I'm going into any of those other models that I talked about on this episode. And of course, I'll share any trends that I'm seeing too on the brand partnership side. And if you're dreaming of going full-time creator someday, remember, you don't need 1 million followers, but you do need a clear way to monetize and stand out. So until next time, keep building your social currency, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Social Currency. I've been wanting to launch this show for so long. I can't tell you how excited I am to do this and how thrilled I am that you're actually here listening. It means the world to me. If you liked what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast, because it massively helps to support the work I do to bring the show to life. And if you want to keep up with the hottest business lore in real time, follow me on Instagram at Sammi Cohen Talks, and subscribe to my newsletter, Social Currency, which is linked in the show notes. Social Currency is a production of Social Currency Media and Money News Network. The podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Sammi Cohen. Social Currency is produced by the Money News Network team. See you next time.